Good evening and welcome to this Facebook Live all about hangovers. First of all, I have to say cheers to the festive season where we're all going to be doing an awful lot more drinking of something like this than we typically do throughout the rest of the year. Although there are a lot of people who do drink every day, all throughout the year, and maybe build up a tolerance for a hangover, but it's definitely something that I've actually never been able to do because I do suffer quite badly with hangovers. So in doing my research for this video and for radio and TV, then I was extra interested in figuring out what is the deal with hangovers. So I have my own symptoms that come up. I have always been someone who, if I've had an anesthetic or anything like that, I always throw up. So the next day, if I've had too much to drink, not realizing it, obviously if it's been a long period of time, sort of an early dinner into late evening, then there's a large quantity of alcohol that's been consumed over a period of time. And that really gets me. That's definitely the worst time when I end up with a hangover. So the next day, it seems that the way in which my body deals with the hangover is to actually throw up. And it happens all the time. So I've cut back my alcohol in so many different occasions, and then occasionally, sometimes it still can happen. Not necessarily if I've drunk a whole bunch of different things, a whole bunch of different, mixed my drinks and things like that. Sometimes if I've just stuck to red wine, it still can happen. Now, in doing some of the research, I came across this fantastic article on hangover cures from all over the world. And one of them, which I shared on radio last week, which was just hilarious, was about the bull penis. So this is actually a dog treat. So any minute now, I think my dog's going to come over and be like, why have we got that? So this is called dried bull penis. And this, if you live in Sicily, this is what they used to gnaw on. This is definitely a dog treat. This is not something that I'm going to sit there and gnaw on, although Jerry Agar did, which, bless him, he was totally into it. And I'm so grateful that he was. It was really funny. If you are in Turkey, then you'll end up with a tripe soup, which, again, my dog eats. I guess they don't, they're having all of these things, and, my dog loves tripe. It's incredibly nutritious for animals. I'm not really sure it's something that I'm going to have for myself. The ancient Romans, they used to deep fry a canary. Not sure if the head was on or off. The Japanese eat ambashi plums, which I do actually have in my fridge, so perhaps next time I've come in from a gathering or just a long drinking evening or something like that, I might actually go and try something like the ambashi plums. However, let's talk about the real situation. So a couple of things I want to go over tonight is how on earth do you try and avoid a hangover and then deal with a hangover? So the best case scenario is prevention, which means don't drink at all. So there you go. That's probably the best case scenario, is just don't drink. Doesn't always happen, not always possible. A lot of people love their wine, love their drinks. You're going out, you want to be sociable, all of those kind of things. So you have to find a way to manage to do it. So that big fry up that you think that you're going to have the morning after actually is one of the best things that you can do before you go out. If you, the Mediterraneans end up having a tablespoon or a spoonful full of olive oil, and they have that before they start drinking, and that actually helps to slow down the release and the absorption of the alcohol. Now, if you're a woman like myself, I don't actually break down alcohol as well as a man does. I have less enzymes, and I also have less glutathione in my body. It just seems to be a male-female thing, physiologically, and this is not the case for every female, not the case for every male, but that definitely is something that I have less enzymes than my male counterpart, and something like glutathione, which is actually a supplement that I take. As you can see right here, this is a liquid. A lot of people have this by IV. Actually, if you're in Las Vegas, there is apparently a company that picks you up in their limo or their truck or whatever, and then they hook you up to this IV. There's glutathione, I believe, in it, a whole bunch of vitamins and things like that, and then you really are just in super duper shape after you've had this IV, which I would imagine has glutathione in it. So some other ways to prevent is to make sure that you're having enough water. So alcohol dehydrates so very much. And what happens is in dehydration, your brain kind of shrinks of fluid, and then it pulls on absolutely everything over your brain. I know that when I get a headache the next day, then I'm not quite sure where to go, where to touch. I kind of just want to do this and hold my head, that kind of thing. So water is so important. The next day, I'll definitely have coconut water, because I do find for myself, not everybody finds this, I do find for myself that it ends up being more hydrating for me. So those are just a couple of things to do in prevention. And then when you're choosing your drinks, this is huge. So a fermentation that happens in all alcohol, a byproduct of that is called congeners. And congeners, the higher the level of congeners in an alcohol, which happens to be in anything dark. So the darker your drink, the more congeners it's probably going to have. So if we look at alcohol, or spirits, then you're looking at brandy, cognac, scotch, which is a bit of a shame because I do quite like that. So take these two for instance. So this is some rye. This is a Dillon's rye, which I did actually have the pleasure of tasting in a Scotch. What did I have? What was the drink? We tried something when I had oysters with some friends. A whiskey sour. That was it. I had this in a whiskey sour, just one. It was really very pleasant, no hangover. Versus the vodka. I do really enjoy this vodka. So between the two of them, higher congeners, sadly, which just means if you're more susceptible, just be a little bit careful about what you're drinking. Anything clear like this or gin. Sake is another one that's clear. And then, of course, if we look at these two, which is such a disaster, red versus white. Less congeners, more congeners. Now, I was actually recommended to get a specific Chianti because it is less hangover worthy. So perhaps there's just less congeners in that. Pinot Noir, I think, is a slightly thinner or less red. So it's the depth of the color. So even in a lighter rye like this one or a lighter whiskey, then there's going to be less congeners in it. So if you are really susceptible, see if you can handle having white wine, or stick to vodka, or stick to gin. Tequila is a little bit kind of in the middle, depends again on which one you have. I know that Dillon's also have a white rye, which again, same kind of thing, could have less congeners in it. Now, so that's the first step in deciding. The second thing is don't mix your drinks. Without a doubt, it's always a problem. So for instance, in a martini, this is actually water, but in case I needed to have a sip, I'll just be hydrating myself. So in a martini, if I have a martini, I have a great friend and we go out and we have one martini when she's in town, then I will just have vodka in this and have it stirred or shaken or however they make it with a lovely twist, and not have vermouth in it, because I definitely end up with more of a headache if I have a traditional martini. So I just stick to that and choose whichever vodka I fancy, and then I have one of those, and then I'm totally good. If I were to have a vodka and tonic, let's say, or a vodka and 7-Up or something like that. First of all, we've got two things going on there. Same thing that happens with beer, and very sadly, same thing that happens with bubbles. Anything that's carbonated gets absorbed faster. The alcohol gets absorbed much quicker with anything that has bubbles in it. So lessen the amount of bubbles. So vodka and water, for instance, which essentially if I make a martini and have a lot of ice in there, then some of the ice is sort of diluting a little bit of the alcohol. The more you can dilute the alcohol, the better. So important to make sure that you're diluting the alcohol with any kind of water as much as you possibly can, because that is putting more hydration into your body. So less bubbles, the lighter the better, and just don't drink so much. It's not, if you kind of get into it and you're at an evening and, I've been places where I have my red wine glass and it was never empty. People just come around and just keep on filling. So you do have to make sure that you're aware of what's going in and have they changed your wine, or have you got white now and then somebody brings out martinis or something like that. You've got all of these crazy different drinks that are going into you, and it makes it really, really difficult for your liver to get rid of all of that alcohol. We can actually only process about 3/4 of an ounce of alcohol an hour. So if you have, a 1 ounce martini, for instance, and you're drinking one an hour and you have water in between, then you might be okay after, just after a few or something like that. A lot of people think the next day that the hair of the dog is definitely the way to go when it comes time to deal with your hangover. However, you're so dehydrated, your liver is trying to detoxify everything that it's been given the night before, and then you just go and prolong the agony by doing that. It can make you feel a bit better for a shorter period of time, but your body just has to break it down. That's all there is to it. There are some vitamins which help to break it down. Milk thistle is fantastic. I definitely am a user of what this is called hepatogest. So this is support for detoxification in my liver. I always add in the glutathione, which is incredibly important. I've got some, this is called Alkali C, which is really high in minerals. So potassium, magnesium, so important, as well as the vitamin C, B vitamins, always incredibly important. And then I also add in spectrolite, which is an ionic mineral, because I'm so dehydrated, or anybody would be dehydrated after having a whole bunch of alcohol. So really important to make sure that you've got those nutrients going back into your body, especially the liver supportive and supportive nutrients from the hepatogest or even from the glutathione. Really, really great to get in there. Okay, so let's say that you're going out, you've had your really big meal, you've had your tablespoon of olive oil like the Mediterraneans, and then you've gone out, you've drunk as much water as possible, you've had all your vitamins. The next morning, you're still not feeling great. So what should you do? So it's too late by then to just take something and all of a sudden you'll be better. You still have to process everything out of your system. Eating eggs the next morning for breakfast is huge. It has cysteine in it, which helps to break down that alcohol. So eggs are your best friend the next morning. Bananas, another amazing food to eat the next morning. Not only is it carb rich because your blood sugar has tanked overnight, so you're going to bring yourself back up again a little bit with the banana, and then also potassium's in there to help replenish a lot of what's lost, which is why I'm having those ionic minerals the next day. Water dilutes the alcohol, so as much water as you can the next day. Some people have fruit juice because, again, it brings up your blood sugar level, which also contributes to that crash that you have typically the next afternoon. So you have to eat the protein. That's where the eggs come from. So incredibly important. So stick to one drink at a time at night. Sorry, one type of drink, or one drink at a time instead of 2 drinks. Yeah, that's not going to help the hangover at all either. So stick to one type of drink as much as you possibly can. If you want to play about or mess about with just going for the lighter drinks as opposed to the darker drinks, that would definitely be a good way to go, especially if you've been suffering with hangovers for a while. And you're going to find of the wine, generally speaking, and spirits, actually, the spirits are filtered less, just because that's, that also reflects in the price of whatever it is that you're buying. So the cheaper typically has more preservatives in it. It hasn't been filtered. There's higher congeners in it. Even if you look at different vodkas, for instance, or different gins, different lighter spirits, you're going to have the same issue there. Things like beer, that's just such a tricky one. Go for a lighter beer than a darker beer. Again, less congeners in the light, more in the dark, and see if that makes a difference for you. Something like a stout, I believe, does not have the bubbles in it, or as many bubbles in it, so that would be a good thing. The bubbles increase the uptake of alcohol, and that's faster, hits your brain, hits your liver, and then there's so much more to be processing the next day. It's really actually very hard on our bodies, and I know I'm a nutritionist. I don't drink loads, but sometimes when I do, if I go out of an evening, then I do end up in the same place as everybody else, and sometimes even worse. Maybe is that because because I have a cleaner diet? I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those things. For the whole of my life, I've been sort of a thrower-upper. One anesthetist once told me that there are just those people that do that. So what's actually happening to me is that my stomach is producing the acid, the digesting acids called hydrochloric acid. It's producing it. And then my body thinks, I don't want that in there anymore. And then that's when the vomiting starts. Or diarrhea often happens with some people too. So there's all of these different body processes that happen. So over the season, do what you can to drink as much water as possible. Keep those nutrients, that liver support going as much as you possibly can, just to navigate your way through. And sometimes, why don't you try and be the designated driver, because it's a great excuse not to drink anything if you're finding that you just need to have a night off. But there's so many social things going on. You just say, no, I'm the one who's going to drive, and I know that I'm not going to drink anything, and then away you go. And your body and your liver will definitely thank you for it. So thanks so much. Happy holidays to everybody. I hope you have a really great holiday season, and you can now navigate the hangovers even better. Go to LiannePhillipson.com, check out the blog for some more information, and of course always reach out to me to let me know. Type in some questions down below if you've got some questions, and I'll get back to you with those. And yeah, happy holidays. Take care. Bye.